So over the past year, I've made a trilogy of videos that has been spotlighting some of the worst artists that are currently making music today. And what originally started off being just a top 10 list evolved and morphed into, well, more than 50 different artists over 3 different videos. So what started off as 3 top 10 lists really kind of ballooned and blossomed to the point that the last video in the trilogy was actually talking about more than 30 different artists as opposed to just 10, though in a top 10 format. Now, a lot of people probably have many questions regarding this, and it's not just based around why these artists really are, terrible, either that or, why is my opinion more important than somebody else's, which it's not. And probably one of the bigger questions is, why does it seem like each and every one of these names, why are they familiar? Why are they familiar? Why are these names that we know? Or is it really that bad? Are there really that many artists with names that we recognize that are just making plastic music, making music that seems incredibly soulless? And probably one of the more important questions that I don't hear as much, and I think I know why, should actually be, well, what can we do about it? In a way, that question not being asked is one reason why things are the way they are today. Since 2008, actually, music sales have kind of experienced a very strange little evolution. Now, obviously, since the first part of the 2000s, there's been a lot of emphasis and a lot of transference over to the digital medium, whether it be through iTunes, either that or other different providers, other different services. The single has kind of reemerged also, considering singles can be purchased both on iTunes but also on cellular phones, Kindle Fires, different devices in which you need some sort of notification tone, either that or that way you can have your music literally everywhere, even though with an MP3 player, well, you kind of had that accessibility already. Apparently now you need to be able to play music while you're reading a book on a Kindle Fire, which is just bonkers to me. Why do you need music on a Kindle Fire where you're reading a book that's not a book? I don't get it. I really don't. But this is the reason why. This very concept is the reason why. Music sales have actually gone down, and it's been, even though the digital boom has occurred, it's been even though a vinyl resurgence has occurred, and it's been even though CDs have been kind of trying to remain steady, but still steadily experiencing loss. So why so many names? If music is really not doing that well, if sales are down, why is there so many names available? Is it really just the caliber of music these days is that bad? Well, in a way, yes. And that's going to continue. And the reason why it's actually going to continue is if you take a look at the subdivision, if you take a look at those 53 or so artists that I mentioned, if you take a look at their total worth as far as CD and media sales goes within those past couple of years, it makes up a pretty nice chunk. Now, we didn't obviously mention artists like Adele or Justin Timberlake, which both had, huge sales years. Justin Timberlake so far this year, and Adele in 2011, where 21 ended up selling over 10 million copies in the United States alone, basically saving the business for a year, and selling more than 26 million worldwide whenever you account for just absolutely everything. So that's something that's kind of just delaying the inevitable a little bit, and actually think about what the numbers would be like if that didn't happen. That would mean that the losses that have been reported to the tune of 14.4% over a 5-year period from 2008 now, essentially from a year before coverkillernation came on the internet to this moment right now. Imagine if you take away those 26 million units, and you're talking probably, instead of it being 14.4%, it's somewhere closer to the realm of 20%. We all have a responsibility here, and we all claim so many different things, but we talk out of both sides of our mouths, and that's the big thing. That's the big reason why I'm here. I'm here to basically call out each and every person on this, because there are some people that are going out there and doing it right, and because of that, their style of music, their love, their passion, their artists are getting a lot more in the way of promotion. They're getting a lot more in the way of legwork being put into their, to their albums being sold. And then there's others where that's just not the case. Now, obviously, there's market differences in everything. For example, we here on the Cover Killer Nation channel, we typically talk about heavy metal music. Now, heavy metal is still a niche market. We have to admit this, ladies and gentlemen. We have to admit this and accept this because heavy metal just truly is not for everybody. We kind of, place heavy metal on a special pedestal. We kind of place heavy metal in a different realm. It's something that really just expands, our overall musical, IQ to a certain degree that is just, it's unexplainable. It's phenomenal. But it's not something that's going to be for everybody. Not everybody is going to get that. You're not going to see some, Jersey Shore reject in a club wanting to mosh to Burzum. You're going to want... You're not going to have, Country Joe Brown, who's down here with his straw hat and, his suspenders, wanting to jam to fucking Children in Bodom. No, Jersey Shore bitch is obviously going to want to jam to the newest Pitbull piece of shit. And obviously Country Joe Brown might be looking for something a little bit more along the lines of the Merle Haggard front. However, whenever we take a look at it, we are responsible as individuals in order to really promote what music is going to be popular within the next wave. Either that or which music is really going to be receiving a lot of promotion. Every time that you look at an album and you say, man, this stuff is really good, I really like this single, and I really like the other stuff that I'm hearing, but you decide not to buy it, you're actually, doing more than just, maybe taking about $2 out of the artist's hands, because that's really all the more the cut it is, and that's kind of generous. What you're also doing is that you're kind of giving in and feeding into a cycle in which the powers that be really don't see this as such a viable commodity anymore. They don't take a look at it as something that really deserves a lot of backing. Instead, it's something that's just going to, maybe whenever their next album comes out, if it even does, they're just going to kind of softly push it a little bit. It's going to be something where they release it to the markets, and maybe there'll be little hype. There won't be big signs. There won't be fanfare. There won't be promo copies. There won't be anything excitable really about it, and it basically will be down and up to the band in order to really try to self-promote themselves by trying to make the most kick-ass album possible. Now, every band attempts to do this anyhow, but it's a lot of pressure, and if you're not getting a lot of reward, then really what's the point? There's such an emphasis on live shows these days because that's where most revenue can basically be made anymore, off of t-shirt sales and merch and things like that. But it really shouldn't be that way. It's something where the physical medium should also have something to do with it. And that's why I'm here also. I'm here to tell you guys that, record stores, I've always said, we need to save them. It's something that's really definitely important. This is something where so many people are going to Walmart, Kmart, Target, and places like that for their music that, well, it kind of takes all the soul out of it. And I'm not saying that just because I work at one. I'm saying that because I remember the culture. I remember having 2 record stores just in my little small 1-floor mall. Something that seems, obscene, but it was something that was perfectly okay, and they were always populated. There was always people in them, and that's because there was a culture that was bred. Take a look in the 1970s. Take a look at how classic rock was really backed. It was backed because of promotion that was done because all of the time, whenever these bands were releasing albums, people went out and bought them. They wanted them. It was really good music, and people really wanted to stand behind it. They stood behind music that they felt was good. In the 1980s, it was true, once again, whenever people were watching Cameron Crowe and John Hughes movies, that music was backed. Alternative was starting to get its legs. Obviously we had the original inception of metal. Metallica was doing some, moving some units, and thrash was definitely big, especially in the western half of the United States. And then look at the 90s. Look at the explosion in the 1990s of alternative rock, of radio-friendly rock, the fucking Friends theme song, shit like that. Not to mention the cultural explosion of hip-hop. And we haven't even talked about R&B music. We're talking about good R&B music, too. We're talking about the Michael Jacksons of the world. We're talking about Prince. Stuff that we talk about here in 2013, back whenever it first came out, back before anybody had a reason just to say, that's a good album because it's such and such, because of who it is. This is back whenever it was, that's a good album because of these songs, and because he has a voice that reminds me of this. Just like with new artists of today. The difference is that today you don't see that comparison point all that much. In fact, you don't see a lot of bodies in the stores. However, we need the bodies in the stores. And it isn't just even on a sales level. It really isn't. While the sales would be nice, I think the real problem here, the real threat, is the balance of power. Now, if you want a great example as to why a certain genre of music is perhaps getting a lot of traction and a lot of promotion, you need to look farther than the rap genre. The rap genre gets a couple of new albums every couple of weeks, usually from a couple of different artists. There's a lot of them out there that really have a lot of great sales potential, and they do very well, whether it be just in my small little area or just countrywide. But the reason for this is because there are a lot of members of my community that whenever multiple rap albums come out over the span of a couple of weeks, come in one day and purchase all of them. It doesn't even really matter whether or not, there's no real question being asked. It's just something that, they need to do. They need to get home, they need to listen to it. Yeah, they got a bang to it and stuff like this. There's all sorts of different slang terms used for listening to the music, and I'm definitely not hip enough in order to pick up on all those. But it doesn't matter. They're still buying it, and they're still trying it out. And the funny thing about it is that if they don't like it, they're not trying to return it or sell it back or something like that. It's basically one of those things where there's a bit of an aspect there that where if they don't like it, they'll find someone who wants it and just give it to them. Rock music needs something like that. Heavy metal kind of does too, but there are people that do that same thing as well with heavy metal. Since it's more of a niche genre, it's definitely something where it happens more often. But I guess the real point of this video is that whenever rock music comes out, sometimes we don't know how good it is until we try it out. But if we're afraid to try it out, or we feel that, well, why should I pay for it to try it out whenever I could try it for free and never pay for it ever, that's the wrong attitude. That same thing is true for these rap fans. That same thing is true for country fans that come in and purchase those albums. And really, rock fans, the same thing is true for heavy metal fans also. We could easily stream everything online. In fact, some of us probably do. But the one thing that happens is because of the stream, because of something being good, we go out of our way to find it. We go out of our way to purchase it at a store or order it online or even try to find a vinyl edition of it. Something that's really going to speak to us, something that's really going to be, important. And if it's available in a store and we see it in a store, we'll buy it in a store. Rock fans have no excuse. The reason why there's not really any great rock bands out there right now, and believe me, if you're saying some of the names that I think you're saying, they're not great rock bands. You're talking about trendy modern rock that really doesn't have very much soul. Try to compare that stuff to, Led Zeppelin. Try to compare that stuff to, bands such as Heart. Try to compare that to, bands that have actually lasted the test of time. And you'll realize that a lot of the bands that you probably just named to me, they're going to last the test of time for about 3 years, and then they're going to be largely forgotten. Rock fans, we need a little bit of a revolution out of you guys. We need a lot more support. It's to the point right now where R&B radio stations are getting about 5 to 10 times the monetary backing than your rock and roll stations. It's to the point where because of that monetary difference, the amount of viewership and the amount of people that these rock stations can actually reach has declined significantly. There are people that can save this. There are people that can help this out. And that's you guys. That's you, the consumer. Each and every one of you, as a consumer, can help out. I pay special attention to the rock faithful because I really want to see a great rock revival. I really want to see rock be something that's highly promoted over the next couple of years, and I want to see a lot of new stars being bred. People that are really going to be telling the next couple of decades interesting story about rock and roll. And in order for that to happen, well, those from right now, those from this era, they need our support. So here's my thing. This is what I would like from each and every one of you that are watching this video, and hopefully you've watched to this point. Go to a record store after you watch this video, or the next time that you get paid. Pick up a couple of albums, and whenever you do, come back to this video and tell me what they were. If we do this each and every time that we have an available fund, if we do to the point where we maybe buy 1 or 2 records every time we get paid, just simply because we need them in a collection, to build a little bit of collection, to build some pride, then really this whole thing would probably be a little bit more fair and balanced. And there'd be no need for this video. But it has to start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here and what better time than now? If you can name that quote, but don't have that album, maybe you ought to get it. Because it speaks volumes. Buy a record today. Buy a record tomorrow. Buy one the next time you're in a store. Find something that you like. Let me know what it was. Let's talk about it. Let's make this a revolution here on YouTube. Let's make this more than just a video that has comments. Let's make it a full thread. Discuss music with other people. Let's have some fun with this.